Well, good morning, everyone. 1st of October, another month. Holy dooly. It's just flying by. Anyway, all part of the fun. Hope you're having a good weekend. And here in Les Sables d'Olonne, stunning day, light breezes, blue sky, blue water, the whole bit, nice place to be. But anyway, I don't know why I'm in the office, but that's another story. So we're going to get straight into the tracker. You've probably seen the tweets and so on. Some funny little stories coming out, some serious racing. And anyway, I'll bring it up as it comes through. The question and answers I'll do straight after this uh, about 15 minutes after this finishes. I'll get into the question and answers, give you that, and give you some breaking news. I tend to slip in little snippets there for those that are watching and doing the questions all the way through, because there's going to be a bit of a change next week with the OGR. Which is all very interesting, but we'll get into that later on. So for now, the tracker, and I'll check the comments at the end of this as well. So we can go through if anyone's got any immediate stuff they want to know. Interesting snippet from Godspeed. Wow. They're about 120 miles off the coast of Mauritania, and they had a panga boat, which is like a long, narrow, glass boat with 25 people in it. It's like a day boat. Kind of strange. They just said bit obscure being out there, and I tend to agree. No idea what people would be. 25 people in a 25-foot open boat would be doing 120 miles off the coast. But anyway, not for us to speculate. So 7.6 knots for Godspeed, as we were predicting yesterday. They got some solid trade winds there, probably blowing 25 to 32, sort of 28 knots. Gusting over the other side, and probably 3 to 3.5 meter seas, so enjoying a lot. And they did 166 nautical miles in the day. So they're behind Explorer. Hopefully they don't catch up to Explorer, but they're about 580 miles behind Explorer. I think when they started, they were about 712 nautical miles behind Explorer. So they're picking up some ground there, which is really good to see. And we'll explain how that works with Godspeed's penalty later on. Someone asked a question about, how does that relate to the rest of their race? That they're a finisher in this leg, but they can't get any rankings from this leg. But I'll explain that in the question and answers. So, and Godspeed, if we just focus on them and look at the weather ahead for 24 hours, that's sort of tomorrow. They've still got the trade winds there, but it's the doldrums. Yeah, the doldrums are lifting quite high. They've come up to level with the Cape Verdes, so that might be some challenges for them. Yep, they're going to be out of the trade winds probably within 24 hours by the look of this. That's only they'll probably get another day of trade winds, and then they might have some slow going. Anyway, that will mean that if we have a quick sneak peek at this in a couple of days, the doldrums are getting quite wide there, and you can call it about there 720 miles wide. It wasn't that wide a few days ago. Certainly Penjuic got a huge break. They basically didn't see much of it at all. They only slowed them up about 12 hours or so. But you can see there, you got 720 miles of rubbish. That's certainly going to slow you down. So hopefully that closes up a bit as they get closer. So that's cool. Back to the other group at the back here. I'll just pick you up one more size so we can see what's going on. Explorer now is in serious trouble because they don't have a boombox anymore. That means they can't play any cassette tapes. They're quite concerned about that. Doing 6.3 knots, which is all good. 121 nautical miles in the last 24 hours. Interestingly, the news from Sterna, which is right alongside, is that they've got goose barnacles. And, we've had a lot of issues with goose barnacles here with the Golden Globe race coming through. And this is the area where they pick them up. We've got a few pet theories. We've seen it over 2 editions, and it can get quite bad. These boats are certainly faster and bigger and so on, and it shouldn't be affected. But what we believe happens is somewhere between the Cape Verdes and the equator, which is down here, there may be clouds of the spores, or call them what you like, from goose barnacles. And if you sail through one of those, you're likely to pick them up on the hull, and they grow incredibly fast. which will slow you down. So I hope someone goes swimming from Explorer to have a look. Maybe that's why they're, anyway. so it's kind of interesting that Sterner said they've got goose barnacles, and they're going to probably, they can slow you down a hell of a lot, and you get your chance to get them off when they're small. And if you're doing that, it needs to happen here when you're likely to be going slow or stopped and it's calm weather, because once you make it into the southeasterly trades on the other side of the equator, you basically don't stop. It's a bit hard to then get the barnacles off, because if you do stop in the rough seas, 2 to 3 meter seas, there's boats bouncing up and down, hit you on the head, hard to be in control. So that's kind of interesting. And in Explorer's case, it's kind of worse because we didn't really have time to paint the bottom before, literally in the last 6 months. It's a bit of a long story. So the scheduled plan is to slip the boat in Cape Town. And in fact, everyone's got to do a bottom job in Cape Town, because New Zealand quarantine is really strict. They won't let you enter the country unless your last port of call, you either slip the boat and get the bottom squeaky clean, take photographs to prove that it's perfect, and then put the boat in the water, or you have to pay a certified special diver to come in and first of all check the bottom, make sure there's no slime or shell or anything like that, take photos, and that certified guy, we're under quarantine from New Zealand, has to fill out a huge amount of paperwork, and then pass that to Department of Conservation in New Zealand, and they'll give you approval to come. If you don't do it, you're in big trouble when you get there. So anyway, we're slipping Explorer in Cape Town, and I hope they get to Cape Town soon enough to allow time for that. And every other boat will either slip or put a diver on and clean the bottom. So Evrika's out on the move again, 6.8 knots, 108 miles in the day. And they'll be happy with that. Just to confirm, Explorer did 121 nautical miles in the day. Sterner did 66. So they're on the move now, but they stopped for a while. So all a bit fluky. White Shadow, 5.1 knots, but they parked as well. You can see it in their snail trail there if I blew it up a bit more, but they only did 35 nautical miles in the day. That's encouraging. Explorer actually did all right there. So now Explorer's only about 117 miles behind White Shadow. So, and about 235 miles behind Galiana. Galiana's tweet was interesting because they had a bit of a puff last night from the south, and the temperature dropped a couple of degrees, and they were dreaming that maybe it was the beginning of the southeast trades, but of course it's not. They're still well and truly in the doldrums. And there, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, the doldrums right now are quite challenging and completely different from when Penjuik and the leaders went through. Penjuik particularly. So the game's changing. You can see that there's a huge area here of no wind. Anyway, White Shadow, yeah, we went through that. 10th in line honours, 9th in IRC, and 2nd in cellular class. So that's cool. Galiana, 4.1 knots. So they're still moving. 45 nautical miles in a day. Oh, that's cool. Explorer would have caught up a little bit. That's why they did. Anyway, but then Explorer's going to slow down when they're in Galiana's position. Anyway, coming right across, there's another interesting tweet from Outlaw. They're on the move now. They slowed right down in the last day. They've only done 90 nautical miles in the last 24 hours. 6.4 knots at the moment, but he must have read my comments, or he must have got online and seen the tracker update yesterday, because I was suggesting that they're really committed now to stay along the coast here and make the most of it, because of where they ended up having dropped that guy off in Dakar. And that's exactly what Campbell said on his tweet. Their game plan now has been dictated by the circumstance they found themselves in. So just remember to have a look at the tweets. Jane puts them up every day on Facebook if you're not on Twitter, or you can read them as they happen on Twitter. So they're not doing too bad. They're still making good progress. They still did 90 miles in the last 24 hours, and they're right on the cusp of the trades here if they keep moving. We'll go through the weather in a sec. So they're still looking good, whatever track they decide to do going down through the Atlantic, and interesting to watch. So what's happening with L'Esprit Equip? We'll talk about that in a minute. They're only doing 2.2 at the moment, but let's go over this side, and I'll just pick this up a bit so we can look at Neptune, 1.1 knots. Very frustrating. This graphic is showing a nice breeze from the sort of east, right? But they're obviously not getting that. And you can clearly see their snail trail has been very frustrating for them. A little bit all over the ocean trying to find the breeze and keep up with it. So, and their tweets are suggesting something similar. So very frustrating. Only 22 nautical miles in the last 24 hours, but nonetheless, they're still moving. And steady as she goes, catches the worm or something like that. Triana always seemed to be moving well, 3.9 knots. It was really interesting. I don't know whether anyone else noticed this. When you looked at their photograph, the satellite photographs they had, or was it one of the videos? No, I think it was a video. There was a quick roll through, and there's this massive pile of stuff in the middle of the saloon, a huge pile, just about every bag and everything they could find that's mobile. They've put it in the middle of the boat and they've strapped it down with ratchet straps. And that gives you an indication of what's going on. There's more, obviously they'd be stacking sails as well on deck, which is completely allowed. That's what everyone does, that's serious racing. But I was really interested to see that massive pile of gear. Normal boat would just chuck it up in the bow or whatever, but they've got all their heavy stuff right in the center of the boat, which is all about performance. So that's another indication of they're really sailing hard. And there's a couple of guys on there that are absolute world-class super competitive guys, and I'd say they're the push behind their performance. Anyway, interesting stuff. 3.9 knots, 106 miles in the last day, first in adventure class, 6 line honours and 5th in IRC. So all doing very well. And then now I'm going to go back down again so we can see what's going on here. This is pretty much as I said yesterday as well. If you look at where L'Esprit Equipe was, she's coming down. She was a lot closer to Maiden, or closing the ground with Maiden and Translated, but she was coming into this band of the trade winds. Now they've sort of screwed out a little bit, but when they got there, I said Lionel will be in an interesting position with that angle. He's probably going to go out on starboard tack and just make easting, because that's the smartest thing to do. The other tacks are losing tack. And then he's in a better position to decide whether he wants to go down the middle of the Atlantic or pay off for boat speed. Still go down the trade wind route, but when you can take the wind at a better angle on the bow instead of being going to windward or just cracking off, you're going to get better boat speed. So this is a tactical move, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. They're not going super fast. They've only done 17 miles in the last 24 hours, but they're heading in that direction. So Maiden and Translated, of course, have pulled away because they got breeze. So now Maiden, they've definitely lost ground against Maiden and Translated. 297, and I think they were only a couple of 100 miles before. So they've lost quite a bit there, which is bad luck for them. But there's interesting racing going on. The other thing, I waffle on the weekends because you don't have to listen if you don't want. The other thing that's interesting here is that all of them are talking about not having any weather. But the weather forecasting for here would be unpredictable anyway, and it's pretty constant. You can sort of guarantee that in this area it's going to be totally confused. You get what you get, you make the most of it and try and struggle through. Once you've done that, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get the southeasterly trades, and they'll move around. It's a trade wind belt, so you don't really need forecast down here. The only thing that changes is how hard it's going to blow. There's no tactical decisions. That starts to come when you're way further down here. Then it's nice to know where the center of the high is. That's the next tactical decision that can affect your ultimate course. But up here, doesn't really matter. You got to deal with what you got. You can't make too much of it unless you make these big, bold moves, which is strategic, like Outlaw now's on the way east of the course and probably going down through the middle. L'Esprit Equipe is trying to think of where's the best way to be and also just keep the boat moving. It's only doing 2 knots. That was a really good one that White Shadow did, a week or so ago, going out to the west. It paid dividends, but interestingly now, maybe they're losing some of that benefit. Hard to say. The doldrums really are a complete lottery. So, having said that, let's just scale this through and see what happens to the doldrums mainly. And then we'll go to the lead boats in a minute. It's in the next, here we go to midnight. It's starting to open up some big holes there. And what I'm seeing here coming into the next 24 hours is the area is getting bigger and the holes are getting bigger as well, the overall area of the doldrums. But you can see now, because, this back end group pretty much sailed down through here, but now there's not much wind up there. So, and at the same time, maybe the trades are coming up to meet the other sailors. This is 24 hours out. We'll see what happens here. No, the trade winds it's starting to contract there. The trade winds are still holding this relative position just below. No, they've come up a little bit in the first day, but then they're holding. They're not much moving. So this is 2 days away. So in 2 days, it's come up just a little bit. And I think you'll see, 2 days, Galliana, Neptune, Triana, and so on, they'll be into it. And I think you'll see White Shadow just getting down there, but it's still tough. So not a lot to see there. Okay, so we'll now come back here to Maiden, Translated, Spirit of Helsinki, and Penduic. Penduic is rocketing away. We'll start at the front here. Although this breeze, this southeasterly, has turned into an easterly now, which suits them fine because they can come across, and strategically that gives them more options. So they'll be going for maximum boat speed now. They're not maybe close reaching, but a bit more reaching. 7.2 knots, 104 nautical miles in the day. So not a huge daily run because the wind is getting softer. This is 10 to 15 knots by the look of it. And sea state is going to be, it's only 2 to 3. There's been 2 to 3. It's picking up down here when the trade's getting stronger and so on. But there's only 2 to 3 there. Currents, there should be bugger all currents. Yep, that's it. And temperature-wise, it'll be getting cooler now. You'll see it's still pretty hot, but it is going to get cooler as they get further south. So that's kind of interesting. So what's happening here? Maiden, 5.8 knots, 151 miles last 24. And Translated, 162 miles last 24, doing 6.3 knots. So still on a par, but they've separated. Not sure whether the blind dates will be happening because their distance separating each other now is 115 nautical miles. They wouldn't be. They're outside the range of VHF, so now it gets a bit trickier because if they try blind dating on the HF, all the other boats can hear. And Spirit of Helsinki will probably want to come into the loop, and others may as well. So that could be interesting. Anyway, but they're 115 miles apart now. Spirit of Helsinki, 9.4, 191 in the last 24 hours. That's one of the biggest runs of the day, I think. Yeah, 104. So that means they would have taken out a bit on Penduic. They'd be happy with that. So basically now, Spirit of Helsinki, stern to stern, is 329 nautical miles behind Penduic. Now, it looks like because Penduic slowed down, Translated, which is their arch enemy on IRC handicap, oh no, they're still 3 days behind, 446 miles behind Penduic. And that's basically it's an easy, a slow 3 days. So they're still about 3 days behind. That's the interesting thing to watch because certainly Marie sees Translated as an IRC threat for sure. Let's just see where IRC is for. Okay, yeah, they're fourth. So Maiden's fourth on IRC. Translated is second on IRC. Helsinki is third on IRC, so third, fourth. So yeah, these top boats are having a real race. So here you've got Penduic first on IRC, still holding onto the line on us as well. First, then you got Translated second IRC. You got Spirit of Helsinki third on IRC, and then Maiden fourth on IRC. So as a group, they're having a great race, which is quite fun to watch. I don't think there's a lot to see on the leaderboard. I think that's probably what we haven't done is followed the weather through for this lead group for the next couple of days, so we can watch what's happening. And in fact, I wonder if I can show you the bottom bit. Can we see that? It should be big enough. No, I'll do it in 2 parts. I just want to see what's going to happen here first. So we'll push this through. I'm quickly running it through. It's getting softer. Wow, look ahead of Penduic there. I'm going to pick this up one more. Penduic's going to go a little bit quieter by the look of it. I'll slip Maiden in there. Hit that again. Come back to the beginning. I'm going to start again. So that's real-time weather there now. Helsinki looks like they're going to get that solid green. Translated Maiden have got it soft. And then it's softening up ahead of Penjuic, but Helsinki has got a solid gradient there. So she's probably going to take out another 50 miles, maybe in the next 24 hours, I'd say. Yep. And then, so here we are a day ahead. Penjuic's coming down here pretty soft. There's more breeze behind. So I would say Helsinki is going to gain a bit, and maybe even, yeah, second day translated, yeah, maybe a little bit translated, maybe catch a bit. It's all relative, I suppose. So there goes, we're coming into day two. Yeah, it's all over by day two. There's a constant, the trades are back, pretty solid all the way through. That's going to help these guys at the back. The Spirit Equip are going to be the same. They're going to be loving this. So you can see solid trade wins. I'll jump forward another day. Yep, they're building. They're getting stronger because of what's happening here. This high, as I mentioned a few days ago, is going to get massive. It's really strong. The last I looked, the center of this high was going to go to 1,045 hectopascals, which is pretty solid. So if we just go back and see how that transitions, and this is where it's going to really work in Penjuic's favor. This low pressure system here quickly moving to the east, and it's going to be taken over and replaced by this South Atlantic high, which is going to build to be very strong. So if we just watch that, you can see what's going to happen. The low's moving away. The high is getting stronger and stronger and creating the trough in between, this one here on day two that caused the light winds. That's the merging of the two systems. That's actually a high, but the center of this high is going to slip out this way. And so this existing southeasterly airflow is going to join up with this building high, South Atlantic high, and make one massive high pressure system. There it goes. You can see it's just the center slipping down here towards Cape Town. And this is one of the nightmares you'll hear us talk about later on, how the boats do their final approach to Cape Town. It's really challenging. It can it's another snakes and ladders or win and lose situation. And by the time you get to there, the 3rd of October, the grade, you're there, you're looking at this. Here's Penjuic up here. This is on the 3rd, so it's 3 days away. You're starting to see this massive South Atlantic high, and that's what's going to deliver for everyone for quite some time. In fact, I'll run this right through to the end. This is really strong now. This is 28, 28 gusting over 30, 3 to 4 meter seas, all coming on the beam down here. So then Penjuic will be coming down as we suggested. If they're lucky, the center will start to slow down a bit, and Penjuic could ride this one high all the way around the bottom. But I think it's going to move too far. They're stationary there at the moment. I'm clicking it through on the 5th. You can see the center hasn't moved. It's still sitting there. If they get this right and come down, they'll read their barometer and they'll stay away from this. That's quite a bit of wind there. But they can come down and be aiming at the center. This is just fantastic little slot there. I'll get this going. There's the 6th. It's still there. There's the 7th, 8th. See, Penjuic could be in around the 16th. And at that rate, now it gets tricky, so it softens up. So, but, if they get through this, if Penjuic comes down there by the 9th, they'll be here somewhere. They could literally try to get across. But if you approach from too far, you got to get on the nose. You really need to do the last few days coming to Cape Town, approaching from the southwest. Anyway, that's as far as the forecast goes. But interesting times ahead. You'll be fascinated at the weather. The good news is there's no weather up here. The only thing that happens is the doldrums, which is pretty boring. But soon, as they're coming down, once they get in below the 40s here, and this is 30 degrees south of 40s, they really need to get down here generally to come up and into Cape Town. So you're going to see all sorts of weather, and half the discussion of the tracker will be all about the weather they've got, how it's changing, and how it's going to interact with the fleet. So the next 2 legs, going all the way around to Punta del Este in Uruguay, are going to be quite fascinating with weather, and there'll be lots of challenges, and it gets quite serious. So anyway, that's it for today. I'll come back and check the comments here. see what we've got. Oops, I just remembered. I hope I wasn't speaking too fast for all our French friends. Morning from Ireland. G'day. Jackie, g'day, Jackie. Paul, Christine, Greece. Ooh, Brisbane. Oh, wow. Pat Lawless. G'day, Pat. Hurry up and put your entry in. Adelaide. Hi, Helen. Caprice. Do you think Outlaw will tack off to starboard as they hit the trades? Can you point out which way you would go from their current position, please? Okay, I'll come back because some people might be wondering the same thing. I'll just go back to the tracker and I'll pick up. See, I've got the benefit of hindsight here because I can see the weather, right? But generally speaking, come back to today's weather, build this up. I'd be doing exactly what they're doing right now. Because they came down on the gradient and you can see they've straightened up a little bit. That's because they're dealing with the weather they've got on hand at the moment. I wouldn't necessarily rush off to down the coast here. I'd certainly stay on this side of the track until I hit the trades. I absolutely wouldn't start drifting across in the doldrums in this way. It's counterproductive because you're basically staying in it longer. You got to get out of it as quick as you can. So you want to go sort of south and maybe a little bit of east in it, but now you're just struggling to get out to get to this wind band. Now then, if subject to all the things being equal, if I got to this point here and then we realize we've hit the trades and the temperature dropping, all this sort of stuff, I got to look at the big picture. You're coming through here. I would absolutely hold up, but I'd go for maximum boat speed. That sounds like a stupid thing to say when you're racing, but what I mean there is once you get to the trades, I wouldn't throw away anything to the west, but what I absolutely would do is I wouldn't slow the boat down to point high because you've got a bit in the bank, it's what I was saying. So once you get to the trades, I would start close reaching and I would bear away as the sea got higher. In other words, close reaching is okay if you've only got a 2 meter sea or whatever, 2.5. So you're going for optimum boat speed generally in the course. So there's a lot of variables. If the sea gets up, you're going to have to crack off a bit. Certainly, you will know which is the winning and losing tack. If you tack out here and you're going this way, it's pointless. If you tack out here and you're going that way, that's still a winning tack because you're going down generally where you want to go. So you can't make the decision yet. You've got to get out of the doldrums as quick as you can. You transit that now as quick as you can. As soon as it gets it, then make your decisions. Go for boat speed. Don't hold high, but don't throw it away. That's the easiest way to explain it, if that makes sense. So I'll come back here now and I pressed the wrong button, I think. Better. Because anyway, what's going on here? That's it. Is it? Yeah, I think you're looking at me. Anyway, okay, I'll go down. So I hope that answers the question. Hi, Simon. Helsinki's motoring. No, not motoring. Oh, you mean motoring speed-wise? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm answering the rules on what they can do and cannot do when they're motoring in the Q&A. Someone asked the same question. But yeah, they're steaming along. G'day, Elizabeth. It's October. Change your 9 to a 10. Oh, jeepers, you're right. Okay, see, it's too early in the morning on a Sunday. And I just realised, I've changed the date, but I didn't change the month. Oops. Okay. Thank you for that. G'day. Did some racing yesterday. Thanks for GGR. G'day. Did some racing, Caroline. G'day, Dublin. Outlaw will have to win to go east. Yeah, we'll wait and see. Kylie, feels like only yesterday OGR started, and now we're talking about approach to Cape Town. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It'll all be over soon. That's the crazy part. And then I've got to decide what I'm going to do. Thailand. Oh, good afternoon from Thailand. G'day, Jeffrey. Caprice not showing the tracker. That must have been just now. I must have hit the wrong buttons. Sorry about that. Anyway, hopefully you understood my word description. Okay, I'm out of here before I press more wrong buttons, and I'll try and change the one at the top for Thingo. Thanks for that, and we'll see you for question and answers in about 15 minutes or so. And bye-bye.